a safe space, how to live in our individual lives, the edict common to so many faiths, to love our neighbors. And one of the ways that we create that safe space is, of course, to have people identify themselves with their names and, where possible, with their faces. We have a guest speaker, who I will introduce in a moment, who will introduce our topic. And then later we'll break out into small groups for about a half an hour of discussion. And it's not going to be enough. So I'm warning you, say, what's it? My niece used to have an expression, talk as much as you need and as little as you can, because we really have to be succinct in our messages, because there are so many wonderful messages that are going to be shared tonight, and we never have enough time. So just alerting you to that in advance. And now I'd like to introduce our speaker for tonight, Christopher DeSanti. Christopher DeSanti is an international transformational trainer and educator of higher knowledge. His background stems from a sudden shift in awakening at the age of 16. From that time on, his life has focused on understanding human consciousness and what is needed for a human being to awaken into a life of love, freedom, and joy. For the past 20 years, this journey has led him to fascinating discoveries, including exploring Native American culture and philosophy, and North and South American shamanic traditions, the great teachers of non-duality in India, and A Course in Miracles. Christopher has successfully combined all these teachings in more than a decade of facilitating classes and supporting many on their journey of self-actualization. His unique, innovative, and powerful teaching style has enabled him to reach and teach nearly 10,000 students over the past decade. Christopher lives in Lake Worth, Florida, with his wife, Lori, who is a breath worker, counselor, and coach. Together, they often facilitate classes centered around healing and awakening. For many years, they have led a trip to the Bahamas, where their group swims with wild dolphins while participating in each individual's own transformational work. Christopher's heartfelt passion is working with people from all walks of life to support the awakening of consciousness on the planet. Welcome, Christopher DeSanti.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to be on with all of you. Thank you, Judy. And thank you, Irma, for the opportunity to connect with all of these beautiful faces, beautiful people. And I'm really honored to be here tonight. I know we have 15 minutes we'll talk, and then you'll go into breakout rooms. And I want to acknowledge everyone for being here, and thank you again for the opportunity to share with you something I think that has been really profound for me. And I've been fortunate to be able to share with people for quite some time now. It's probably been about almost 15 years of sharing specifically about A Course in Miracles weekly to groups like this. And it's been a real passion of mine. And I want to share some of it with you tonight, and then you can talk to each other about it. And you shared about, I had a shift in awakening, and I was very fortunate to travel to India and then bridge it with this teaching of A Course in Miracles. And I want to share with you tonight around loving thy neighbor, no exceptions. I love that title. And it's really profound. A Course in Miracles is profound in speaking into that. And we'll speak into it tonight. Before, I'd like to ask, who's familiar with A Course in Miracles? Is anyone familiar? Okay, so a bunch of hands are up. I consider myself a student of the course, and I've been facilitating it like this, in groups like this, every week for almost a third of my life at this point. Loving thy neighbor, when we talk about no exceptions, I think the course is a really beautiful teaching on what's a practical way of applying that and how important it is for us. So I want to talk to you about that a little bit tonight, and let's dive right in. And, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about really from the course perspective. I consider myself a student, but I've also been facilitating it as a student, teacher, facilitator for with everyone. And I do the course myself, and I practice it daily. And it's something that is really, I think right now where we're at it's a great opportunity, a great time for us to take it to the next level and really the highest level of being connected with each other and really seeing the sameness, really being able to connect with human beings on a heart level. That's really what it's about. And we'll talk a little bit about forgiveness and how can we love thy neighbor, no exceptions, and intensifying the light. Because ultimately the light, if we want to see it in ourselves, we must be able to see it in each other. And that's something that the Course talks about. That's very powerful. And I want to give a little foundation here so we can have a context in talking. And if you've ever studied the Course, this will be a refresher. And if you haven't, I recommend it. The Course talks about our minds having two very distinct thought systems that we live from. And if we're going to talk about loving thy neighbor with no exceptions, we must be able to distinguish in our minds between two very, very distinct, if you want to call them teachers, if you want to call them thought systems that are very distinct from each other. And one of them is built on love and the other is built on separation and fear. And one of the reasons I love the title, Loving Thy Neighbor, No Exception, is when we look at, depending on how we see the world and which lens that we see it from. So one of them is, we said, built on love and the other is built on fear. You can, one voice or teaching or thought system you could call spirit, the other you could call the ego if you'd like. That's how the Course calls it. And depending on which teacher we listen to or which thought system we listen to in our own minds, that's how we see the world. And when we talk about loving thy neighbor, loving each other, no exceptions, it's actually crucial. And in a lot of ways, I think we aspire to that, and maybe we've heard about, well, we should love each other, and that's the right thing to do. And what does that entail? Well, the Course takes it, it takes that conversation and takes it even a step further, in that if we want to experience peace and joy and freedom and abundance ourselves, we actually must learn to love our neighbor with no exceptions. Because to whatever degree we hold grievances, to whatever degree that we push our neighbor away, our brothers and sisters, and any human being, any part of life where we push it away and try to separate off, we will suffer. And we know this. I think anyone that's on here with the intention of learning how to love thy neighbor and intensify the light knows what it feels like to be cut off from other human beings, knows what it feels like to be cut off from, really from our neighbors. And now more than ever, it's really ultimately needed to be able to elevate how we see each other and realizing that these two teachings, if you will, or two distinct thought systems, one built on love, spirit, the other built on fear, the ego, let's call it that for now. They have a very different way of seeing the world. And the way that the ego's taught us to see the world is through separateness. We're all different. Look at the different, different faiths, different ethnicities, different genders, different. So we see differences. And if you look at the way that the ego operates in our minds, it always is trying to push us and have a wall between our neighbors. And that wall isn't just physically, but it's also mentally. It's also the way we see each other, the grievances that we hold, thinking how people should be different, and we have all these belief systems that we operate from. Well, from the thought system of, the Course says, from the thought system of spirit, if you will, spirit sees the sameness. One of the things I have behind me, this picture, I really love it, because if you're looking at the earth from this perspective, this point of view, where it's all connected. I mean, we're literally all connected. And how I see someone else, whoever, and it's not even just how I see them, how I think about them determines how I see myself and the filters I see through and the life ultimately that I experience. And I'd like to read this. This is from A Course in Miracles, and it's a couple sentences, and I think it's great because I think it speaks into what we're talking about tonight, and really what the invitation for us to connect to aspire to see each other through this. And it's pretty deep, and maybe not, maybe for you go, of course, that makes perfect sense to me. So I'll read, it's a few sentences, something I'd love to share. And this comes from A Course in Miracles. And it says, when you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. So before I read the sentences, let me just take that sentence right there. The Course is talking about when we meet anyone, a stranger, when we meet each other on Zoom, when we think about others, when we see people on the news and media, wherever we are, those opportunities are what A Course in Miracles calls a holy encounter. And this is from a section in A Course in Miracles called the Holy Encounter. So it says, when you meet anyone, remember it is a holy encounter. As you see them, you will see yourself. As you treat them, you will treat yourself. As you think of them, you will think of yourself. Never forget this, for in them, you will find yourself or lose yourself. And I think that that's very profound in how we seek to see each other. And we could celebrate the differences and then also know that we're connected at a very deep level. So when I talk about loving thy neighbor, no exceptions, actually the Course says something very powerful about loving our neighbors. And it says that in the world, everything is either love or a call for love. Some of you may have heard that before. So even the people in your life that you see maybe out in the world that are hard to love, know that underneath it, everyone has had challenging times. You see people who are angry and shut down and closed off and aggressive and have all of this, really anger within themselves. When you look back, most people have hurt hearts. Most people have had things that have happened that have hurt them deep inside. And A Course in Miracles calls that's actually a call for love. So anytime anyone is speaking things to you that maybe you don't feel are loving, we want to try to find within ourselves a place to love, to express love, and even when it's difficult. And we could still have boundaries with each other and things in the world and how we navigate through the world. But ultimately what it is everything's either love or a call for love. So the Course says to respond with anything, really the only response is very simple. It's love. And that we learn to love each other, and we learn in every situation that this moment is a holy encounter wherever. That's what the person, if you're live in a place where someone, at the cash register or at the gas station or wherever we go, we have an amazing opportunity to look in the eyes of all beings. And that's all beings. It's not just human beings, animals, the whole entire, all of creation. And we have the ability to see through looking through the filters of love. We have a way of seeing ourselves and the truth of who we all are together. And it's been a challenging time for many people. And this is an opportunity with what we see happening on the planet to really, for us to make the choice within our own hearts and our own minds to give the response of love to every situation. And there's times that it might be difficult, and we have a great curriculum to practice in our lives. And ultimately it's A Course in Miracles. That is the miracle, is to shift from our minds from fear into love and then express that love out into the world. And we have the power to do that. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy. And what starts to happen, I love what people were sharing about helping each other and helping other human beings, because it's through that. There's a thing in the Course that says, when I give, I receive. So through giving of whatever it is, it's giving of my heart, giving of love, giving of, hey, how can I help? Do you need anything? Checking in with someone and telling them they matter and you love them. There's so many opportunities for us to express what the Course calls miracles in the world. And it starts with our own minds, and all the things in our minds that are fear or that of our neighbors, where we want to have those exceptions, those yeah buts. Well, yeah, but we want to have those exceptions. Well, when we start to look within ourselves and say, hold on for a second, how I see them is how I see myself. So what response would I offer my neighbors? Because that's the response that I'm offering myself. And if you look, you'll see this to be the way that this game of life, if you will, is set up. That I say this to my students. I teach a beginner and an advanced class in the Course in Miracles, and I have for many years. And I say this to my students often, that you can't attack any part of life and think that you'll escape the attack yourself. If you look at anyone that lives with hatred in their heart or anger, attack, judging thy neighbors and exceptions, that you look at them and the people experience lack of joy, lack of freedom, lack of fulfillment. So it's actually through how we see our neighbors and learning to say, you might not agree with everyone, and that's okay, but never to respond with anything but love, to never condemn my neighbor, because then I end up feeling condemned myself. I feel and we all know what that feels like. And in the last few minutes before you go into breakout rooms, this is one of the great lessons, or if you will, one of the great curriculums that the Course calls forgiveness. That when we have exceptions with our neighbors, when we want to judge and we want to condemn and we want to hold grievances and we want to hold differences and different opinions, see, look, we're separate from each other, and we want to make ourselves better and put others down and see through those lenses, that comes from our past. And when you think about what forgiveness is, it's to give forth all of my past judgments and associations that still keep me a prisoner in my own heart, my own mind. When we can forgive that, to give it forth, to see a new way of looking at the world and each other. So the title tonight, Loving Thy Neighbor, No Exceptions, is really perfect, because there ultimately are no exceptions. And wherever we make those exceptions, it will end up working against our own best interest for ourselves as well. And when we realize that, we have the opportunity to live a life of joy, of love, of freedom, of connection, because we are all connected at a very, very deep level. And when we seek to see that, that's where really the beauty lies for ourselves, and we can live a life of love and of connection with each other. And what a beautiful way to live while we're here together at this time. So I think that brings me to about 15 minutes, Todd. I don't know if I have about 1 minute left maybe, or something like that. So, but thank you. Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you for that. And I'll pass it. I'm sure when you'll go into breakout rooms and come back, and we'll be able to talk a little more, but thank you for the opportunity, for listening. Yeah.
Oh, it is so our pleasure to be able to be in your presence and share what you have to give, because it's right. It's all right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the opportunity.
And now, as Christopher said, we will be breaking into small discussion groups for the next half hour. And Reverend Todd is going to accomplish that miracle for us. There will be a facilitator for each group who will guide the discussion in keeping with the principles for interfaith dialogue that ALL Interfaith developed years ago, and they are tried and true. I don't know if we have a slide for that, Todd, but I will just read a couple of them, even if the slide isn't there. Some of the principles that ALL adopts for our dialogues are acceptance, authenticity, non-judgment, respecting our differences, keeping each other safe, listening and hearing, using I statements. And those are just a few. Let's see what the rest of them are. There we go. And there will be some that resonate more for each of us, things that we know we need practice in, and that's why we remind ourselves and each other of these principles of dialogue, because once we know how to talk with each other, and I think it goes right back to what Christopher was saying, you talk to somebody else the way you talk to yourself. And so to offer the support to others feeds back to offering support to yourself. So that's beautiful. And so we're going to have the discussions in concert, in accordance with these principles. And all the groups will discuss 2 questions. That's all, 2 questions. What impacted you the most from Christopher DeSanti's comments? And what is most difficult for you loving your neighbor? What impacted you the most from what Christopher shared, and what is most difficult for you loving your neighbor? So each group will select a reporter, and the reporter will report back 1 single significant learning. Everybody put your index finger up. 1. I know that there are going to be 1 times 10 at least. They're going to be amazing learnings, and you can always type them into the chat. And we encourage you to type anything you want into the chat, but we need 1 from each group. So the reporter has a difficult job. And so, we're going to be back in a half an hour. We ask for your patience now, as everyone will be invited. You'll see the box appear on your screen. And you will see the number of the group you're being invited to join on that little pull down screen. You simply hit join, and then in a half an hour, we'll close out those groups, so you'll be brought back into the main meeting. So you won't have to do anything. We'll do it for you. But this time you do have to, move your cursor onto your little box. So Reverend Todd, take us away.
Okay. I just want everyone to know that these groups have been divinely ordered. It's all by chance, the group that you end up with. And so I invite you to affirm right now that the group you end up in is the group you're supposed to be in. And there is something for you to give and something for you to receive in the group that you end up in. And so I'm going to break you into rooms right now. And based on our time, we're actually going to take just a couple of extra minutes so you guys can have a great discussion. You're going to be pulled back into this main room at 8:35. So you've got just about 32 minutes, and we are going to go into those now. And just click down on the accept to go into your room. You'll see that in a little blue box probably down on the side.
We didn't all agree with, by the way, but it's interesting to hear it. This is a quote by Byron Katie. There are no horrible people. There are believers. And if I believed what they believed, I would be horrible too. And then also another quote was, bless and release. So I think the idea of loving, returning love when somebody shows something mean or angry or hateful, that's a big challenge. It's a tall order.
Yes.
Oh, and can I just say one more thing? Before this whole event ends, I have an invitation I want to make to everybody.
Okay.
I can do it now or later, your choice.
Let's do it later. I just remind me if we get to the end and I haven't called back on you. Thank you so much. Okay. Yona, and if I'm saying that wrong, please correct me, but will you unmute?
That's perfect, thank you. Yes, it is Yona. Yeah, so in our group, we did have several very interesting situations with people, with ourselves and our neighbors. And what we came away with is, as a kernel, is that many times the lack of control that comes up, that we perceive within an interaction, will cause us to feel fear instead of love. And that will cause us to lose our peace. So the question is, how do we resolve a situation in a loving and a peaceful manner? By finding a creative solution that gives everyone a good outcome. And we do that by finding the love in our heart and then finding a creative solution putting it out there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey, I think you're going to report for group 6, aren't you?
I am. One of the things that happened in group 6 was one of the people who was a reverend years ago had been very helpful to someone who had lost a beloved family member. And they kind of came together in our group and realized that they knew one another from that time. And the one still had relics, I guess, from their encounter that she carries around as she moves from place to place. So that was just a beautiful thing to be a part of. We enjoyed thinking about the two ways of coming at the world. It was the topic itself and the words of the topic that really had an impact on, I would say, everybody in the group, and how it's just so difficult, especially with family members and people who have different political or value orientation, to kind of get to a good point. And even seeing that someone who's terribly hurt in some way or another is acting out in their search to find love for themselves. But the words that came up a lot were, the word rather was forgiveness, and using how we treat other people as a mirror of how we feel about ourselves and what kind of love we have for ourselves, and to remember that we do need to love ourselves.
It's a really great reminder. That sounds like an incredible conversation too. Thank you for sharing, Audrey. Ramona, I think you are going to share with us next from your group. Can you unmute yourself?
I can reiterate everything Audrey just said. For our group, we talked a lot about forgiveness being the important thing. And no matter how cruel someone acts, we might be seeing ourselves in that person. It's important to forgive them. And sometimes it's important to step aside and not let yourself get all upset about it, because maybe you've got to forgive your own self, and something terrible might be going on in that person's life. We've all got things going on. We don't have time for them to tell us the entire thing. So accept that maybe their situation is worse than it looks, and maybe say a prayer for him. And we're all on a journey that we hope to get there. We're always striving to accept other people. Maybe we're not going to change our mind and believe the way they do, but we can say to ourselves, they have good in them. That is their view. And how you see others is how you see yourself. So we keep striving to accept.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, I think you're going to unmute and share from your group, group 8.
Oh, yeah, we had an excellent conversation, and lots of different points came up. Our facilitator has been working with Course in Miracles since the 80s. So we got a lot of reinforcement, and another one of our members is working now to become a trainer. So we got lots of reinforcement on this. And I think that probably the hardest question was when you're faced with people who are hateful, who seem to be filled with hate. How do you react in that point? And just the fact that by sending out energy, that the loving energy that one can send out can either exacerbate a situation or can diffuse a situation. And nobody was saying that it was easy to do. And each time to catch ourselves and put ourselves in that more loving frame of mind, ready for compassionate communication, or it may just be the energy that we send out.
Excellent. Thank you, Kathy, so
Good.
much. And Fran, can I get you to unmute? And I think you're going to share for us.
Okay, we really had a great group. Chris did a great job of facilitating. And everyone is looking for love. It's in the hierarchy and it's right up there. And what came out with is we should choose to come from a loving place, from a spiritual place, respond from a spiritual place, share that you are a loving person, and choose to be the best giver.
That was excellent. Thank you so very much. I think that we just got all of our groups in. I'm going to let somebody wave at me or correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that got all of our groups. So Judy, can I invite you to come back and?
Sure.
Okay.
And I'm not muted? No, good. And I'm not going to stay in the spotlight a moment longer because I know that we all want to hear what our wonderful speaker, Christopher DeSanti, does with all of these wonderful messages, wonderful responses to his wonderful message. So Christopher, you're going to do our wrap up.
Great.
Forward to it.
Thank you. And it was great to hear, what you came up with in the groups together. And, it seems like a theme is it's challenging, and it is. It is. And that's part of our curriculum. Some people are like, well, what do you do when someone's spitting hateful things at you? And I think of an old story with Gandhi when he was in prison. And I read the story, heard it through a teacher or something many years ago, and in lice infested, and they were just abusive. And Gandhi went up and said, thank you. Looked the one of the guards right in the eye and just said, thank you. Like, there's a lesson here and I'm getting it. Thank you. And the thing is, if we could first catch ourselves and that wanting to react and just step back and take a breath and say, okay, here's the quick answer is we have a teacher. We talked about spirit. We have a connection to, whether you call it the divine love, the divine connection, the divine, the spirit that moves through all things. We're able to tune into that. And we could tune into that when we can get off our own reactions that's happening internally. And it might look like you not saying anything at first. In the world of communication, there's many effective techniques in communicating, things like making requests, listening. I saw that you put up some speaking from the eye and getting off judgment. We're work in progress, remembering these principles, and then communicating from, well, what does love look like in this moment? And allowing ourselves to slow down to reacting, because A Course in Miracles has a line that says, would you rather be right or happy? And that the difficulty is we want to be so right about the look at what they did and look at how they talked to me and all this. But what you start to realize, unless you're physically in threat, then you need to get to safety as fast as possible. But when you're communicating with someone through social media, through on the phone, family members, and there's difference of opinions, see if you can listen and inquire and always come. Love is about coming from a place where we're equals because we're human beings together. And I wouldn't want to put anything else out that would attack or condemn or hurt another, so I can be free myself. And see if you could try it next time. It takes practice. It takes practice. Course in Miracles has a lesson every day for an entire year. And I'm on my 5th time of doing them. And I practice them all the time. And the beauty is you have so many amazing opportunities to practice. All you have to do is get on social media, turn on the news, go to a family gathering or a Zoom family gathering. And here's the thing, this is possible. All those people that give you those reactions, it's possible to actually eventually see them as a gift. We can't get there right away, but it's a gift to find a deeper place of, and some of you said forgiveness. A Course in Miracles says forgiveness is the only path that there is. And forgiveness is also of myself, because love is of myself as well. Somebody else said that. And that if I can find a way to not react, or if I find myself in reaction, to stop, pause. Like, okay, what does peace look like here? I don't know. And I can start to listen to a higher self, a higher power, whatever. Start to listen to that voice in you that is always speaking for love and for peace. So practice it. A concept and us talking for 15 minutes won't be enough. We get to practice. And how many amazing opportunities do we have to do that? So I hopefully that was supportive, and I'll pass it back to you, Judy. For those that want to learn some more about the course, I'll put it again in the chat. I put a link that you can contact and just fill out your email. I'll put you on the list. I do a beginner class and an advanced class. We do it through Zoom. We're starting another cycle. We do it for 8 weeks, and we dive into the distinctions of A Course in Miracles. That will take this conversation and go further, because there's so much more to talk about. So if you're interested, you can just type in. You'll see it in the chat. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope some of this was supportive for you. And I'll leave you with this. The next time you find yourself in reaction, see if you can remember this, to just stop, pause, take a moment, connect to a deeper voice, spirit. We're all connected, and just say, okay, what is love? What is peace? What does connection look like in this moment? And then listen for that and see what happens for you.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, do that. Raise the roof for this man and his gift. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Great being with all of you.
Really great. Really great. And if you appreciate this kind of event, come back. Once a month, Jam and ALL Interfaith puts on this kind of beautiful heart-to-heart communication and opportunity to love each other.
Wait.
And slow down. Put that slide back. We don't want to rush.
Wait, I wanted to ask. Oh, wait. There was somebody that was going to invite us to something, and
Yes,
she didn't get a chance. Can she
yes,
come
she
back?
will. She will. I just want to make sure that I do what I'm supposed to do first.
Okay.
Yes, but I have her name circled. It's Stephanie. So I know I'm going to call on her in a moment. But I just wanted to make sure that everybody who is not already a member of JAM knows that it's cheap and easy to join Jam and ALL Interfaith. The directions are on the screen. Just go to our jamandallinterfaith.net website. And the next of these wonderful opportunities to be reinforced in what makes it all worthwhile is on Monday night, March 8th. The series Intensifying the Light will conclude with Knowing Thyself, Handling Implicit Bias, introduced by Gail Price-Wise, who was part of our conference last year, a year and a week ago. And you can register on the website. And that event is also free of charge, as all of our roundtables are, but you do need to register on Eventbrite, and you need to register for each session, each roundtable separately. So make sure that you keep track of our events, because we don't want you to miss them, because we want you with us. And I will give Stephanie her moment in the sun very quickly. And also don't forget, if anyone else has something that they think we need to know about, please put it into the chat. And Stephanie, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
This is new to me, so I apologize. I didn't know the best way to do it, but there's going to be a first annual Passover Interfaith Seder. It's going to be virtual, and they're going to have it not only in the West, they're going to put it on for the West and for the East, and they want as many people in different faiths to participate. It's going to be on March 30th. There's a letter that explains it in more detail. It's beautiful, and I'm on the board, and I just got on it, so I just want to kind of spread the word. If there's a way for me to send this letter so that people could receive it and read it for themselves, I'd really appreciate that.
Yes,
If I can say something also, because I'm one of the executive producers of this Passover International Interfaith Seder. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for bringing it up. It's
Thank you,
being
Ann.
sponsored by Temple Adath Or and Why I Love Yiddish, and also the Lake Worth Interfaith Network. We are looking for more sponsors. It's really designed so that people of all faiths can understand that oppression and freedom from oppression is something that we all need to be aware of, and it's a common story, and it's a story that is still going on today. And so it will be live streamed. It's free to attend, and we will be sending a lot of information out about this, and perhaps we can use the Jaminol lists and we can distribute it. We're also looking for more interfaith clergy who might be interested in participating. So you can private message me or Stephanie, and we will get you the information so that you can participate. Thank you so much.
That's great. And if you want to put your email address in the chat, that's one way for everybody who is interested in getting more information to be able to contact you. And one of the things that...
Can I say something about the All People's Day virtual? I put that in the chat already. So just let people know that there's a one hour All People's Day free festival that'll be virtual, and it's on March 20th from 11 to 12, and it streams for 8 hours. You will see wonderful performances, music and dance from people from all over, all different cultures, all different issues that have been doing things in art, All People's Day for 10 years. And it's in the chat, and please come. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I can see that Jaminol Interfaith is going to become the central clearinghouse for all of the most amazing events and activities that are going on anywhere. So bring them on. And I did want to also share that this month's Roundtable, the event that we are concluding now, is part of World Interfaith Harmony Week. And I invite you all to Google World Interfaith Harmony Week, because this is part of the season of nonviolence. We are in the season of Valentine's Day, and there are all kinds of times.
Chinese New Year.
Exactly. There are all kinds of things happening at this time of year. And particularly this year, there is a great desire to come together. And so Interfaith Harmony and Multi-Faith Seders and All People's Day, which is the most inclusive holiday there could possibly be. They're all part of the same theme, which is that we are all neighbors. And I would like to again thank Christopher DeSanti for showing us so beautifully and so clearly the ways in which neighbors can love each other. And on behalf of Jaminol Interfaith, I thank you, Christopher. And I thank all the facilitators of all of our groups and all the reporters and all the participants and all the Jaminol members and all the people who weren't Jaminol members but are going to become Jaminol members, because we are all neighbors, and it's a pleasure to be with neighbors. So thank you, and anybody who wants to hang out a little bit and wave at each other and chat, that's great, but want to respect your time, and thank you for spending your evening with us.
Thank you.